Whether you like it for the quirky or creepy character designs or the plots revolving around the unknown, monster or creature movies are definitely an interesting genre to lose yourself in. Monster movies definitely leave a mark on you. From Jurassic Park to Aliens, they are the first introduction of many cinephiles to the wonderful world of cinema. If you've worn out your streaming services with the same old creature features, Jaws, King Kong, Gremlins, this list is for you, my friend. I am going to give you 8 of the best monster movies from the 80s that you most likely haven't heard of. So strap in and let's get started. The Boogans. It's a bit of a cliche, but most of these movies are set in mines. If you think about it, mines are the best place for monsters. They are dark, creepy, damp, and most of them are structured like a labyrinth. Our first film is set inside the mines as well. Okay, so miners Mark and Roger tried to get an abandoned mine up and running. It was shut down 100 years ago as many miners had died inside due to a mysterious catastrophe. They are also expecting Roger's girlfriend Jessie and her friend Trish, whom Jessie is bringing to be Mark's week-long blind date. The two girls also bring along Tiger, Jessie's dog. What they don't know is that the mines are home to the Boogans, predatory creatures that look like the love child from hell of a spider and a turtle, with fangs and tentacles. They are not safe from these creatures, even in their house, as all the houses near the mines are connected through tunnels. Their blissful ignorance does not last for long as the Boogans soon begin attacking. They attack and kill Roger, Jessie, and a local policeman who arrives to help. Blanchard, an old man who had been tasked with making sure the mine never opened again, who failed his job spectacularly by the way, tells Mark about the creatures. Together, Mark and Blanchard blow up the mines with dynamite, causing them to collapse on themselves and effectively trapping the creatures from ever leaving their dark home. Honestly, the way I have summarized the plot does not do justice to the 1981 film, The Boogans, directed by James L. Conway and starring Rebecca Balding, Anne Marie Martin, Fred McCarran, and Jeff Harlan. With catchy dialogues and a nostalgic charm, The Boogans deserves a place in your binge list. If that doesn't convince you, hear the seal of approval from the king of horror himself. Stephen King loves the movie and called it wildly energetic in a review published in The Twilight Zone magazine. Neon Maniacs. Putting the nightlife of San Francisco in some real jeopardy, we have our second entry in the list. Neon Maniacs. The Neon Maniacs are basically legions of the damned who wait beneath the Golden Gate Bridge, waiting for night to arrive. Once night falls, they prey on those unlucky enough to fall into their sights. The authorities are completely baffled, but they have no leads either. One night, teenager Natalie goes out to a party with her friends in Tracy Park. The monsters strike and kill everyone in the group except Natalie. Despite Natalie's best efforts, nobody believes what she actually went through, not even the authorities. I mean, would you if your friend told you psychotic monsters are rampaging into your city? The only two people who believe her are Steven, a guy in her high school who has a massive crush on her, and Paula, a horror enthusiast and a wannabe filmmaker. The trio face off against the Neon Maniacs in a bizarre battle that would either cost them their lives or end up saving the world. Also released as Evil Dead Warriors, the 1986 movie Neon Maniacs is directed by Joseph Mangine and stars Alan Hayes and Leilani Sorrell. The film never bothers to get into who the Maniacs are, but I'm gonna let you in on the secret. The script reveals that these monsters were from another dimension and came to Earth through a portal in the back of an old truck parked inside a storage facility, nestled at the foot of the Golden Gate Bridge. Now, how did that portal open? That's anybody's guess. If you are looking for a crazy film that makes no sense, has some above average 80s makeup and prosthetic work, and keeps you engrossed from start to finish, you should look no further than Neon Maniacs. The Being. Mayor Gordon Lane of Pottsville, Idaho is left in a pickle when he is forced to address the mysterious kidnappings and brutal murders in his town. Afraid that it would affect their potato business, he hires chemical safety engineer Garson Jones to investigate. Detective Mortimer Lutz is no fool and he suspects something terrible is happening in his town. Lutz believes Jones knows more than he's letting on. His suspicions are only confirmed after he and his girlfriend are chased by a monster. Upon confrontation, Jones reveals that their town was home to a nuclear dump site, and repeated exposure to the radioactive materials in the site had created a mutant which was now terrorizing their town. The creature creature was intelligent, but psychotic, nocturnal, and sensitive to light. So, Jones and Lutz team up to take the creature down. Starring Martin Landau, Dorothy Malone, and Joseph Ferrer. The Being is the directorial debut of Jackie Kong, who also wrote the film. Originally made as Easter Sunday, the film sat on the shelf for 3 years and was a critical and commercial failure at the time of its release. But the film has now garnered a cult following. Listen, don't go into this movie expecting a well-written script. It has a silly, incoherent script, cheesy monsters, weird direction, and grotesque effects. It's a bad movie, don't get me wrong, but it's still a pretty fun watch, so why not give it a try? Without Warning. If you have ever wondered, hey, what if there was a serial killer who was an alien? The answer to the question is the movie Without Warning. An extraterrestrial humanoid hunts people near the mountains using jellyfish-like creatures as its living weapons. It then stores their corpses in a shack like trophies. Teenagers Beth, Sandy, Tom, and Greg decide to hike in these dangerous mountains and end up being targeted by the alien. Their only hope is the local truck stop owner Joe Taylor, who had been previously attacked by the alien and knows a thing or two about it that would help them take him down. Without Warning was directed and produced by Graydon Clark in 1980. Also called It Came Without Warning, the film stars Martin Landau, Jack Palance, Tara Nutter, and Christopher S. Nelson. You're not going to believe me, but the film somewhat influenced the 1987 sci-fi thriller Predator. Kevin Peter Hall's performance as the humanoid alien clearly blew away the filmmakers of The Predator as they hired him to play another alien manhunter in their film. The characters are not really that likable, but the creepy character design of the jellyfish creatures and the atmospheric cinematography make up for it. The film is not without its faults, but it's entertaining nonetheless. The Strangeness. Released in 1985, Melanie Ann Phillips' The Strangeness is set in the Golden Spike, an old gold mine that was shut down 100 years ago because the miners refused to work there anymore. So a group is sent in now to check whether the mine is good enough to be opened again. This group includes an old miner, the company representative, 2 cave experts, and a geologist. A writer, Dan Flanders, hears some spooky tales about the mine and tags along with the group. When a random cave-in traps them inside the mine, they are left to defend themselves from a mysterious, slimy creature. The Strangeness is a low-budget film that was written by Phillips and Chris Huntley. It stars Dan Lunham, Terry Burland, and Rolf Thiessen. The Strangeness is pretty straightforward, but unfortunately fails to hold on to the viewer's attention. The plot's not too original, and the filmmakers have failed to build up the necessary atmosphere, but if you are a fan of Lovecraftian monsters, it is worth giving it a watch. The Nest. If you hate cockroaches, buckle up, because The Nest is going to make your skin crawl. The small island town of Northport sees a sudden increase in the number of cockroaches. Sheriff Richard Tarbell, unaware of the looming danger, picks up Elizabeth Johnson, his ex and the daughter of Elias Johnson, the mayor, from the airport. The cause for the cockroach infestation is Dr. Morgan Hubbard, a scientist working for Intech, a corporation that had struck a deal with the mayor by promising to invest in the development of Northport. Hubbard, in her attempt to create a world without pesticides, had accidentally created superior forms of cockroaches that could only be killed by a dose of rotenone that would be lethal to a human. When she reports it to Elias, he suggests evacuating the island, but Hubbard, the evil scientist who just wants to know more about them, persuades him not to. Soon the cockroaches begin to attack and kill humans. Richard begins to investigate the cockroach debacle and finds out that Hubbard used to work at MIT as a geneticist before being kicked out for performing illegal experiments, and that Intech is involved with the cockroach outburst. When he confronts the mayor, he calls Intech, who offered to spray the island with a deadly poison at 5 a.m. Elias plans an evacuation and tells Intech that he will turn on the lighthouse beam if the evacuation is not done, as a signal for them to hold off on the poison. Turns out a fast evacuation is impossible. As the cockroaches begin to evolve into bigger and more horrifying creatures, it is a race against time for Richard, Elizabeth, and local pest control agent Homer Byram to nuke the cockroach nest in the caves on the Intech ground, to turn on the lighthouse beam which has been destroyed by the cockroaches gnawing on the wires, and save their friends and home from this deadly cockroach invasion. Terrence H. Winkless's directorial debut could not have been creepier. Based on Eli Cantor's novel of the same name, the 1988 film The Nest stars Robert Lansing, Terry Treyas, Lisa Langlois, and Frank Luz. A not-so-fun fact about the movie is that the filmmakers picked cockroaches off the streets to star in this film, and several years after the movie wrapped, The set was still plagued with cockroaches. Yuck. If your intention while watching a movie is to be horrified and disgusted, you will get your money's worth with The Nest. But one piece of advice, this is not a movie you can watch while munching on anything. Not even popcorn. Creature. On Titan, the largest moon of Saturn, two geologists from NTI, an American corporation, find an ancient alien laboratory. Inside, they see an egg-like container that houses an alien. The alien emerges and kills the two researchers. 2 months later, their spaceship crashes into Concorde, a space station orbiting the Earth's moon. NTI sends another ship, the Shenandoah, to Titan. The crew of the ship consists of John Fennell, David Perkins, Beth Sladen, Security Officer Melanie Bryce, Captain Mike Davison, Dr. Wendy H. Oliver, and Susan DeLamber. Once there, they receive a distress call from a ship belonging to a West German company. While landing though, the ship accidentally ends up wrecked. Now their only ray of hope is the West German ship. Inside the West German ship, they find the alien egg and the corpses of the ship's crew. The last surviving member of the crew, Hans Rudy Hoffner, tells them that the alien had killed his entire crew. The creature starts picking off the crew of Shenandoah one by one. They are not up against something that kills with no agenda. This creature controls its victims through parasites and uses them to lure the others, causing an atmosphere of terror, horror, and paranoia. This 1985 sci-fi horror is Creature, also called The Titan Find, directed by William Malone and starring Wendy Schaal, Stan Ivar, and Lyman Ward. The cast also includes Klaus Kinski, an actor known for his on-set antics, and he was not any easier to get along with on the set of Creature either. There's a scene where his character eats a sandwich and it was not scripted. Kinski was having lunch and refused to put it away. Despite that, I think the movie pulled it together pretty well. Creature comes across as a blatant ripoff of 1979's Alien, but it does have its moments. It has a tight plot, good acting, and it's well directed. So if you liked Alien and want something along the same lines, watch Creature. Cellar Dweller. Directed by John Carl Buechler, Cellar Dweller was also Deborah Farentino and Miranda Wilson's film debut, and also stars Brian Robbins and Jeffrey Combs. The film starts with Colin Childress, who is a highly successful comic book artist whose inspiration comes from a mystical book of drawings. One day, while working in his basement studio, he unknowingly summons an evil spirit that kills his girlfriend. Desperate to kill it, Colin burns his entire estate down. Years later, an art institute was built on the same land where these tragic events took place. Run by the stern Mrs. Briggs, the art institute welcomes its new student, Whitney Taylor. Taylor is given strict instructions not to go into the cellar. You'd think it's a pretty easy rule to follow, but no. She breaks it sooner than you'd expect. She finds Colin's stuff in the cellar, and while going through his old books, inadvertently releases the bloodthirsty monster once again. Will Whitney survive the attack? Watch the 1988 American-Italian flick Cellar Dweller to find out. This flick has an interesting premise which is only strengthened by its consistent pacing and creature effects. This is the movie I'd ask you to watch if you are yearning for some good, cheesy 80s horror. These were 8 of the best forgotten monster movies of the 80s. I hope I've treated your 80s deficiency well with these picks. My personal favorite in the list is The Nest. The disgust I felt was honestly new, and that's what has stuck with me. What about you? Which one of these 8 films did you like? Or did I miss adding any one of your favorites to this list? Let me know in the comments below, and if you liked the video, make sure to subscribe and leave us a thumbs up. I will soon be back with more awesome stuff, but until then, goodbye!